very special evening. It's one of my favorite evenings of the year because we get to talk about some of our goals and our mission at the Hungarian American Coalition, which I feel are just incredibly important.
Jó estét kívánok! Szeretettel üdvözlöm a kedves vendégeket. My name is Endre Szentkirályi, Vice President of the Coalition. I'll be your Master of Ceremonies tonight, and we will be recording this event. I'd like to welcome you all to this evening's Virtual Gala. I hope everyone has already poured a glass of wine, because the first item on our program tonight will be a toast. And our Toastmaster will be an esteemed diplomat with many years of experience, with postings to South Korea, India, China, Australia, and Qatar, and experience with European Union issues and Brexit. He is none other than His Excellency Mr. Szabolcs Takács, Hungary's ambassador to the United States, speaking to us from Washington. Nagykövet úr, szeretettel üdvözöljük, és átadjuk a szót pohár köszöntőjére.
Jó estét kívánok, hölgyeim és tisztelt uraim! Kedves Endre, köszönöm szépen a nagyon kedves szavakat, meg a felvezetést. Valóban itt nekelőtt mindenkit nagyon nagy tisztelettel és szeretettel üdvözlök Washingtonból. Kaptam felkérést, hogy egy tosztot mondjak egy ilyen nagyon különleges alkalom kapcsán. Azt hiszem, hogy ezt angolul kell megtennem, de magyar nagykövetként nem tehetek más, mint hogy az amerikai magyarokat mindenkit anyanyelvünkön, magyar nyelven szeretném üdvözölni. Nagyon örülök, hogy ilyen sokan itt vannak az ország minden részéről. Továbbra is ilyen furcsa körülmények között, csak egymást egy ilyen videószkrínen keresztül látjuk, de azt gondolom, hogy ez nagyon fontos, hogy itt vagyunk, és ez mindenki részéről egy erős elkötelezettséget jelent, hogy ők szeretnek együtt lenni. Úgyhogy most áttérek akkor angolra, jó? Angol nyelven folytatnám. So everybody understood me. Everybody speaks excellent Hungarian around this virtual table. I thank Endre for the invitation and the kind words as he just introduced myself. And obviously it's an honor and it's a privilege always to talk to you, representatives of the American Hungarian community from all over the country, people with so much experience and such a long history of tireless work and commitment to who you are, how you define yourself, Hungarians in America and Americans in Hungary. And I'm quite sure that what I have learned about you is that you are loyal and committed citizens of both countries. Both the United States of America gave a new home to you, and our motherland, Hungary, that we all love so much. I would like to greet, of course, the distinguished leaders of the Hungarian American Coalition, current president, Andrea Lauer-Rice, about other members of the board, Ambassador April Foley, Max Teleki, Edith Lauer, and others. I similarly, with the same appreciation, I welcome representatives of the Hungarian American Coalition and everybody around this table with the same appreciation, same commitment, same gratitude. First of all, I think I need to, and I truly and with all my heart, I would like to congratulate you on this occasion. It's a solemn occasion of the 30th anniversary of the founding of the largest nationwide umbrella organization of the Hungarian Americans. Over the last 3 decades, this organization has emerged to be a very credible voice for the Hungarian Americans all over the country. We Hungarians work here as diplomats, as official representatives of Hungary. You should know, and you must know, and I'm quite sure that you know, that everybody here in Washington at the embassy, but much beyond, leaders, representatives of the Hungarian government and the Hungarian nation as such, very much value the organization as a long-time loyal and committed advocates of Hungarian issues, of the interest of the Hungarian communities in the United States. Over the past decades, this unwavering commitment to represent Hungarian Americans and help understand American thinking in Hungary has been a great assistant to our diplomatic work, not my work, which I'm very honored to be carrying out as the ambassador of Hungary, but all the Hungarian ambassadors before me and after me. We value much your work and your assistance, your help to us. I believe that members of the coalition contribute immensely in further strengthening the relations between Hungary and in the United States, in good times, in bad times, in the context of challenges and opportunities. I think you have been doing a great work, simply, and we value that very much. So today, I believe, is about celebration on the one hand and recognition. We must recognize, and we do that with the utmost joy and happiness, recognize the tireless work by the founding members and all the leaders and members since then. Of course, in a toast, it's difficult to highlight any specific achievement in such a period of time, but I think it must be said always that we very much appreciate and underline the coalition as being a true supporter of human rights issues of Hungarian minorities, because there are Hungarian minorities. We talk about the Hungarian community in this country, but there are minorities, and there's a huge difference between a community and a minority, just by how we define the community. And those Hungarians who have to suffer as we speak as a minority, they have everyday challenges, and we very much value whatever you are trying to do for them, and you have done a lot. And I'm quite sure that you are committed to be doing even more. Certainly, when we look back at 30 years and 30 years of independence of Hungary, 30 years of democracy, we must assess from what we have reached from point A to point B, from 1989, 1990 until today. This is what we do in Hungary. And we try to compare our life, our positions, our opportunities, our future. And as part of this assessment evaluation of who we are, we Hungarians, the Hungarian American Coalition is a very significant organization that is certainly seen as such in Hungary. I salute the coalition for managing also various scholarships and internship programs for many talented young Hungarians and also Hungarian Americans. This is also part of your work, and we value that, and especially those young people, young Hungarian talents who trying to fulfill all the conditions and requirements that you put for them. They value very much the support that you have been giving to them. We know for sure that the Hungarian American community creates such a special bond between Hungary and the United States. Dedicated leaders and community members who are equally proud of being Hungarian and American play a very important role in shaping the way that two nations think about each other. And I sincerely hope that you can carry on your honorable mission for many, many years to come. So in this toast, I would like to wish you further countless successes, joys, everyday joys. May your dreams be fulfilled. And you can rest assured that we as official representatives of the Hungarian government and the Hungarian nation will always be a partner for that. The embassy here in Washington and the Hungarian government is looking forward to further cooperate with the coalition and on important projects. So again, I thank you very much for your dedicated work. I hope to see you, many of you, very soon in person. And I would like to wish you also an enjoyable evening together, a wonderful virtual gala, which can even be more wonderful if we can meet in person. And I do hope that we can fulfill that in the foreseeable future. I wish you, first of all, good health to yourself, to your loved ones, to your family. And I do hope to see you very soon. Thank you very much for the very honoring outreach to me and to my colleagues. And I wish you an enjoyable evening.
Egészségünkre.
Egészségünkre. Still need to get my glasses. I'm sitting completely alone in an apartment in Washington, so I'll get back to you in a couple of seconds with a glass of wine.
Listen.
We're the lucky ones.
You see the capital split between Hungary and...
Thank you, Ambassador Takács. So, on to the rest of the show. Is everyone comfortable in their own living room? I'm speaking to you live from the heart of the Midwestern Rust Belt, that famed Hungarian city, Cleveland, Ohio, with its Hungarian Heritage Museum right downtown. A member organization of the Hungarian American Coalition, the Cleveland Hungarian Heritage Society has graciously allowed us use of their museum tonight, and we thank them for it. With me here tonight,
It's always time.
Ambassador Takács, egészségünkre.
Egészségünkre. Isten éltesse önöket. De jót kívánok. Cheers.
With me here tonight is the president of Cleveland's Hungarian Museum, Mr. János Szigeti, and his wife Barb, along with the vice president of the museum, Mrs. Andrea Mészáros and her husband Elemér, and chair emerita of the coalition, Mrs. Edith Lauer, the president of the coalition, Mrs. Andrea Rice Lauer, her son JP, and board member Mr. George Pogan, along with his wife Sandy, and Cleveland Hungarian Heritage Society board member Ms. Eva Szabó. But the coalition is not only about Cleveland, beautiful as our city is. Indeed, tonight we have viewing parties going on in Massachusetts with our Vice President, Dr. Agnes Virga, in San Francisco, California, with board member and honorary consul general Mrs. Eva Voisin, and in Daytona Beach, Florida, with honorary consul Ms. Piros Pazarek. Thank you for hosting these parties. And all the way from Seattle, honorary consul Katalin Perman is also with us. In virtual attendance tonight is Ambassador April Foley, as well as chair of the board of the coalition, Mrs. Csilla Grauser, and President Emeritus, Mr. Max Teleki. From Budapest to Washington, from New York to Florida, from California to Chicago, the Hungarian American Coalition thanks its supporters and celebrates our honorees tonight, the founders of the coalition. I'm actually a late arrival to the coalition, and I was not here at the start. But what drew me to the coalition was its ability to transcend the political spectrum. We have diehard Democrats and staunch Republicans among us, united in our love for the United States and Hungary, and a willingness to put aside our differences for the good of the mission, which is to streamline relations between the two countries, whoever happens to be in power on either side of the Atlantic. We have worked with multiple administrations from the left and from the right, here and in Hungary, and our goal, as always, is to help the two countries get along. NATO accession, the visa waiver program, and hundreds of educational internships are what I saw as the greatest accomplishments of this organization, and these noble goals are what drew me here. So let's look back 30 years. What were you doing 30 years ago? Perhaps you were busy parenting, being introduced to the joys of midnight feedings and diapers. Or maybe your children were already experiencing teenage angst, and you were busy providing for them and trying to convince them that their parents weren't horrible human beings. Or, with a shout out to the under 40 crowd, maybe you were young children then, happily blind to the vagaries of transatlantic relations. But I can tell you what the founders of the coalition were not doing 30 years ago, and that's thinking of themselves. No, ladies and gentlemen, the founders were selfless. They had vision, and we will hear about that later tonight. But first, a musical interlude. The Eötvös Loránd University's Béla Bartók Choir was founded in 1948 and has given concerts in almost every country in Europe. They've also toured the US, Canada, and the Middle East. They've performed in the Great Hall of the Wiener Musikverein in Vienna, in the Lausanne Cathedral in Switzerland, and have toured China as well. Conducted by artistic director Mr. László Kovács, please enjoy the Béla Bartók Choir.
Akkor kezdjük egy történelmi áttekintéssel. Jó. 1997 őszén volt az első turné, akkor New York, Washington és Martinsville, Virginiában egy ilyen kis település. Ez 10 nap volt, jól emlékszem. És 2005-ben volt a második turné. Akkor voltunk Torontóban, Vancouverben, Victoria szigetén, Seattle, San Francisco, New York. A sorrend.
Én a második turnén csatlakoztam az együtteshez, mert 98-ban kerültem ide, azóta vagyok tagja az együttesnek, úgyhogy az elsőn még nem voltam jelen, de a második turné az fantasztikus volt, abból a szempontból is nagyon nagy lökést jelentette az együttesnek, hogy egy nem hivatásos együttes nagyon ritkán játszik egymás után sokszor hasonló darabokat. Tehát amikor egy profi együttesnek például kialakul egy repertoár, az attól alakul ki, hogy sokat játszanak valamit együtt, és erre nagyon ritkán van lehetőség, hiszen mi itthon mindig szinte ugyanannak a közönségnek játszunk, és mindig igyekszünk új műsorra. És ez nagyon jó volt, hogy amivel készültünk, egy magyar műsor, Bartókok, kórussal együtt, Daróci, és ezek azóta is az együttes repertoárjának a részei.
Én 2009 óta vagyok az együttes vezetője, és tudom pontosan, hogy milyen nagy eseménynek számít az, amikor egy amatőr együttesnek lehetősége van arra, hogy külföldre jusson. És ugye a második út után 4 év telt el, amikor én ide kerültem, és még nagyon-nagyon sok történet napi módon előkerült, még nagyon közel volt az esemény, tehát a 4 év nem halványította el azokat a történeteket, és azokat az élményeket, amiket az együttes át tudott élni ebben a helyzetben. Egyrészt ez nagyon hosszú utazás, de minden koncert másfajta környezetben, mindenütt más közönséggel való találkozás, és a másféle fogadtatás, és meg annyi kaland, ami szegélyezte az utat, úgyhogy én tudom pontosan. Azóta sokfelé jártunk, de ez az amerikai 2 út, ez tulajdonképpen a mai napig mindenki számára aktívan él.
Sok szeretettel köszöntjük születésnapján az Amerikai Magyar Koalíciót, és kívánjuk, hogy sok ilyen hasznos ügy mellé tudjanak még állni, amivel nekünk is meghatározóvá tettek éveket az életünkből, vagy hónapokat. Köszönjük szépen!
Az együttes életében azért az amerikai utak, és most a 72-est is ide kell sorolnom, valamilyen értelemben mérföldkőnek számítottak. Hatalmas dolog volt ez a bizonyos 1972-es Washington és New York-i turné, és utána szó szerint hidegháborús és egyáltalán nemzetközi afganisztáni események és egyébként miatt meghiúsult a folytatás, és ezt követően 97-ben sikerült Szekeres Zsolt és a koalíció támogatásának és közreműködésének köszönhetően az együttes alapítási évfordulóján, 50. jubileumán az első utat, és utána néhány évvel a másodikat megszervezni. És én ezúton is szeretném megköszönni mind a két társszervezője is voltam ennek az útnak, Zsolt és a koalíció anyagi és főleg a szervezéshez nyújtott jelentős támogatását, az, hogy volt közönségünk, és mindenütt szeretettel fogadtak ebben a koalíció nyugatatlan érdeme volt, úgyhogy Isten éltesse a jubileumán a koalíciót is.
73 years of phenomenal music, ladies and gentlemen. Needless to say, this wonderful choir's U.S. tours were sponsored twice by the Coalition. Now, shifting gears. Chair Emerita Edith Lauer has been with the Coalition since its inception. Indeed, I don't know of anything that happens in the Coalition without her care, wise insights, and vast experience. Please welcome her for a look back at the founding of the Hungarian American Coalition.
Thank you very much, André. Dear Coalition members, dear friends of the Coalition, as I think back to the birth of our Hungarian American Coalition 30 years ago, I remember the tremendous excitement we felt then, not only at the actual founding of the organization, but more about hearing and reading about the almost unbelievable changes in our homeland. Our beloved Hungary was finally a free country. In 1989, 1990, that seemed to be a miracle. The small group of Hungarian American leaders who gathered in the Washington area to discuss how our community could help Hungary transform into a democratic, free market society recognized the need for a new organization. Reverend Imre Bertalan, Zsoltán Szabolcs Szekeres, Gyula Várajai, Sándor Taraszovics, Árpád Kovács, August Molnár, Paul Teleki, Edward Császár, Frank Koszorús Jr., Paul Fekete, and some others. They all wanted to build a coalition of equal partners, hence our name, to pull together under one umbrella as many of the effective, active organizations as possible. We also recognize that building a viable organization must have the support of individual members. Thus, on August 20th, 1991, 15 organizations and 5 individuals formally registered the Hungarian American Coalition in Washington. What were our goals? First, to identify and promote the concerns of the Hungarian American community. Second, to protect and preserve human and minority rights and the cultural heritage of Hungarians. Third, to support democratic institutions and economic development in Hungary. And fourth, to encourage cultural and educational interaction between the people of the U.S. and Hungary. We established an Office of Communication in Washington where the Szekeres brothers, Szabolcs, Zsolt, and János, gave us a room in their offices on Connecticut Avenue, just 2 blocks from the White House, until we raised enough money to pay them rent. Even as a fledgling volunteer organization with very little funding, in those first years we undertook many projects. We sponsored a 6-part Hungary, a video history. We assisted with the multi-city Kolozsvár Collegium choir tour. We published a directory of U.S. university programs where Hungarian university students could come and study. We started a White House internship program and often hosted visitors in Washington from Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, and Vojvodina. We worked hand in hand with László Hámos, Emes Alatkóci, and Bulcsú Veres of the Hungarian Human Rights Foundation in calling attention to human rights violations of the Hungarian communities in those countries. In 1995, we co-sponsored a full-day conference with the Potomac Foundation entitled Promoting European Security and Integration, the Role of National Minorities. In that conference, a comparison of minority rights of the Catalans of Spain and the Rato-Romansh of Switzerland with those of Hungarian communities in Slovakia, Romania, Subcarpathia, and Vojvodina offered a huge contrast. Together with member organizations, we held human rights workshops in Cleveland, San Francisco, Hartford, Pittsburgh, and elsewhere to inform and train young Hungarian Americans about human rights in general and the rights of Hungarians in particular. László Hámos, András Ludányi, Géza Kádár, Frank Koszorús were some of the instructors at those workshops. At the Hartford workshop, I met for the first time an outstanding young man, Max Teleki, who would end up serving as president of the coalition a decade later. In 1992, we joined a group called the Central and Eastern European Coalition that claimed to speak for 20 million U.S. citizens that come from a Central European background. President Clinton and Vice President Gore's foreign policy strategy was to assure stability in Europe through a revitalized NATO alliance with rapid membership for the Visegrad countries. Between 1994 and 1997, members of our coalition were invited to 5 meetings on NATO expansion with President Clinton and/or Vice President Gore, Sandy Berger, Deputy Assistant to the President for National Security, and Strobe Talbot, Deputy Secretary of State, and my favorite State Department person, Daniel Fried, who was Director of East Central Europe for the NSC Council. Peter Újvági, a councilman in Toledo, was instrumental in establishing a close contact and a close working relationship between the coalition and the White House. In 1994, in an especially memorable meeting, Strobe Talbot, who was known as a real Russophile, he served in Russia, said to the 20 Central Eastern European representatives, and I was there to hear this, the question is, what kind of Russia will we have in the 21st century? You feel Russia will revert to type and foresee a dangerous scenario. We see Russia more positively and do not want to undercut those forces that want to build a benign democratic system. His comment was greeted by a stunned silence. Then Jan Nowak, the highly respected elderly leader of the Polish American Congress, stood up and said, "Why did you invite us here if you do not want to accept our opinion? And what will happen if we are right, Mr. Secretary, and you are wrong?" Jan is long gone, but his words were prophetic. In 1997, in order to inform the Hungarian public before a referendum on NATO membership, the coalition held conferences in 3 Hungarian cities, Budapest, Debrecen, and Miskolc, entitled Hungary in an Expanded NATO, Benefits and Responsibilities. Many experts and officials were invited to speak at the extremely well-attended conferences, and Joseph Bader accompanied us in our small group in each city. In the November, and Zsolt, of course, was there directing the whole thing from behind. In the November referendum, 85% of Hungarian voters favored NATO membership. And in 1999, Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic became members of NATO. Although the NATO conferences gave us high visibility, every project we organized affected our thinking. We had the opportunity to meet and work with heroic, outstanding people on their trips to the U.S. Bishop László Tőkés, Miklós Durai, András Sütő, Sándor Csóri, László Dobos, Sándor Sára, Imre Pozsgai, just to mention a few. In the spring of 1991, Transylvanian Bishop Kálmán Csiha visited the U.S. He brought first-hand information of the genuine needs of Hungarian Transylvanian schools, which were systematically confiscated by the Romanian government. Together with his niece, someone we all know, Nádas Kuni, they made a plan to establish a system of godparenting involving Hungarian Americans as sponsors to support the education of young Hungarians in Transylvania, as well as to fund the rebirth of the Hungarian educational system in Romania. This is one of the most successful and long-standing programs in our community, one in which many coalition members participated. I am truly glad to be able to say that in 2000, after a lot of behind-the-scenes work by the coalition and others, the 450-year-old building of the Kolozsvár Reformed Collegium was finally returned to its rightful owners. Through the years, our coalition always tried to develop a good working relationship with both U.S. and Hungarian ambassadors. Once we were invited to the State Department and asked by the newly named U.S. ambassador whom we would recommend to serve as Deputy Chief of Mission. So many people wanted to be posted to Hungary, he said, that he really needed our help. Zsolt Szekeres named the person without hesitation, and he was soon appointed. As the coalition celebrates its 30th anniversary, there are so many friendships, so many supportive relationships to list. George Pogan and Géza Kádár became fast friends in Budapest in 1989, just as communism fell. They have served as the secretary and legal advisor, respectively, at the coalition, and George and Sandy are here with us tonight. Many Hungarian consuls joined us, among them Helen Szabja, László Bőtös, Eugene Megyesi, Csilla Grauser, Eva Voesen, Kathy Prierman, and others. The MBK Hungarian Communion of Friends, the Cleveland Hungarian Heritage Society, who is our generous host tonight, the Magyar Club of Chicago, and many others have played integral parts in our projects and development. I am truly grateful for the financial support of those who made our many projects possible. The Hungary Foundation, the Charles and Lisa Simonyi Fund, Dr. Charles Simonyi, the Pannonius Foundation, Centene Charitable Foundation, Ameritech, the Doris Buffett Foundation, and many, many generous individual donors. I'm sure I'm not alone in feeling that our lives have been greatly enriched by serving a common cause greater than ourselves. In the past 30 years, together with my husband John, we traveled often and much to Hungarian inhabited regions and were truly inspired by the many people we met. Even after 30 years, much work remains to be done. I'm deeply grateful for the privilege of having been part of the coalition, and I'm genuinely proud that my daughter, Andrea, continues to build the organization into the future.
Thank you, Edith. And now, let's take a look at these founders with a short film tribute. It's indeed an honor to be associated with these esteemed founders. And passing the baton to the next generation, our president is Mrs. Andrea Lauer-Rice, the driving force of everyday decisions. Please welcome her for some remarks.
Good evening, everyone around the table, around the world. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, coalition board members, program alumni, and friends. What a wonderful evening to be together, virtually and in some places also physically. giving a shout out to all my regional watch parties. Y'all look great. And also, I see a rather large number of people who are still awake in Budapest who are joining us, which is, I think you all get an extra cup of coffee tomorrow. I see Zsolt and András and Noemi and a couple others. So well done. That's dedication for you, staying up till the middle of the night. We come together tonight for what I'm calling a hybrid virtual gala. It's not exactly the way we'd like to celebrate, but it's a step closer to a fun-filled evening on the banks of the Potomac River. And let's be honest, if the past year has taught us anything, it's that we never ever want to miss an opportunity to come together and have fellowship. So thank you so much to everyone around the table for coming together tonight, for hosting us in this wonderful location. The Cleveland Hungarian Museum, who's been a longtime member organization, has allowed us over the past 2 years to film our virtual gala here among their wonderful exhibits. Thank you so much for the hospitality. To János and Barb, who I have first met this evening, Barb will be receiving a package from me after the gala. If you all remember from last year, we unveiled the honorary Hungarian pin, and that was for the unsung heroes, the spouses, the non-Hungarian spouses of the dedicated Hungarians who make up our Hungarian American community. So, Barb, he will thank you for your support on behalf of all of us. I'd also like to thank George and Sandy Pogan, who are here with us tonight. As most of you know, George is a driving force behind the Chagrin Documentary Film Festival, and I mention this because the Coalition has been a very proud sponsor for several years of the Hungarian Night, which coincidentally will be tomorrow, and it will feature a screening of a documentary on the 1956 Hungarian Revolution entitled Memory Project 1956-2021 by Reka Pignitsky and myself. Now, you may think that this was a shameless plug for my project, but actually it is an example of another community project that the Coalition proudly supports. And so I'm both saying thank you and also welcoming everyone and hoping we'll see everybody in person tomorrow night at Hungarian Night. I know we'll see lots of the Cleveland locals there, but I did just get word that we might be sold out. Is that true? Okay, well, that's exciting. So if you're not able to attend and you're local to Cleveland, or if you are around the world, then you're able to jump on a live stream of the movie as well. So please join us. So although we meet again tonight over Zoom, hopefully this is the last virtual gathering we will have, and on December 3rd we'll be able to celebrate our 30th Mikuláš dinner in person at the Hungarian Embassy. We'll have our annual White House briefing and our annual briefing in DC together, and next spring in 2022, it is our sincere hope that we'll gather once again, not all of us across the world on little Kotskak, little blocks, looks like the Brady Bunch out there, but we'll be able to be together in person in DC to celebrate this significant anniversary and the other galas that we have missed. It will be an epic 3-gala-in-1 celebration. So I would just say we're going to make the tickets available tomorrow. Everybody needs to jump on them. It's going to be a hot one. So an anniversary year, especially as significant as the number 30, always provides us the opportunity to look back on the triumphs, on the challenges, on the many colorful personalities. You know who you are. The handful of curveballs, the champions we have lost. We saw so many on the videos that we've shown tonight already, and the countless adventures and memories that we've made together along the way. I was looking back over the past 30 years just to provide context. We've had 4 different coalition presidents. We've had over 20 coalition chairmen, because at the very beginning our wise founders came up with the idea of a rotating chairmanship to make sure that there was all viewpoints were represented. 38,000 members through our organizational members, 600 plus projects, 515 interns and program alumni. We've raised $7.5 million in programming funds, and the list goes on. We've worked with 5 U.S. administrations, and I had to double check Google a little bit, 8 in Hungary, 8 different officials in Hungary. Through it all, we've held true to our mission statement, as articulated earlier by our founding president, Edith Kischlauer, mother of the MC. She may or may not claim that later. Oh no, not of the MC. She's not your mother, Endra. Good Lord, mother of the president. So sorry. It's causing a scandal up here. Over the past year, we have certainly seen our Hungarian American community rise up to the challenge that a worldwide pandemic brought. From our very own Katalin Karikó, the Hungarian American researcher behind the Pfizer vaccine, who everyone knows should have won the Nobel Prize, to a community that has come together through multi-generational outreach, new technological tools, and wonderful community-wide initiatives. And I've been proud to work in the trenches with coalition leaders and members and community leaders through it all. I would say that as we come out of the pandemic, she says optimistically, we as a community are stronger than ever before. Innovation and creative problem solving are hallmarks of Hungarians. Of course, the world saw it in 1956 when Hungarians rose up with bravery, passion, and creativity to drive Soviet forces from their land when no one else dared. One of my favorite stories from the revolution was of young children turning over soup bowls on the cobblestone streets to cause the massive Soviet tanks to pause and wonder, if only for a moment, if they could be mines, or using homemade jam to smear on tank windows. That was just enough to allow these kids to leap into action and use everything at their disposal to disable the tanks. Later this month, we will all commemorate and celebrate this momentous feat in Hungarian history. And one way we will do this is the unveiling of a new freedom fighter statue in the great state of Georgia. The coalition is so proud to be spearheading this exciting initiative with the support of the Hungary Foundation, the Hungarian Embassy, and individuals and organizations from across the United States, many around the table this evening. Thank you so much, one and all, to everyone for your support. This is really a very, very exciting project, and one that I have been working on for a long, long time. And I see on my kocka here the names of so many folks who have contributed. So thank you. I know we'll be able to celebrate this statue together soon, and we'll use it not just as a way to bring attention to the Hungarian freedom fighters, but also as a way to teach the next generation in this country about the evils of communism. And that is a worthy goal, and one that we all should get behind. So thank you so much. Oh, go ahead, clap. Yeah, there you go. 1956 is also, of course, a significant moment in Hungarian American history, because the 35,000 plus Hungarians who emigrated to the United States revolutionized many industries here, and for decades served as the backbone of our community. The coalition is proud to have many 56ers on our leadership team and among our founders. I've seen Vara Jussi Bacsi is here tonight, Voice in Ava hosting a watch party, my mother, Edith Lauer, Vámosi Karcsi, Philip Laszlo, and the list goes on. Thank you for your wonderful example and your inspiration. We witnessed another example of this great spirit 30 years ago, when we saw a band of 15 organizations and 5 individuals rise up again, not with guns and marches, but with ideas, resources, connections, and a tireless perseverance. They had a vision, recognized an important need at a critical moment, and acted together to create the Hungarian American Coalition. We are forever grateful for this band of fearless founders for setting us on a path where we have worked together to make a difference in important matters and in historic moments. So just for fun, I looked up the traditional gift one gives on the occasion of a 30th anniversary. Since a subscription to the New York Times is out. Dramatic pause, yes. There are two stones mentioned. One is the pearl, the symbol of honesty, purity, and wisdom. The other is the diamond, which symbolizes durability, strength, and passion. All of these qualities are ones I would use to describe the leaders and the work of the coalition over the years. And I think I have had a true ringside seat, serving as the very first intern of the coalition, being tasked with creating the first comprehensive list of all Hungarian American organizations across the nation, long before the internet existed and we all had cell phones. I was literally tethered to the wall with an old phone, making phone calls, tracking down every organization, including the two men who met weekly to play chess in a pool in Hawaii. That too was an organization. That too was a club. I have to check in on them. I don't know how they're doing. As have many others, I have learned so much from the coalition founders, leaders and members, donors, all along the way. My colleagues, my work husband, Max, my partners in crime, one and all. We are all so much richer, having worked together, so much stronger, having been in the trenches, so much wiser, at least we hope, having worked at this for so long, so grateful for the past 30 years, and so hopeful for what is to come. Wisdom, strength, passion, and durability. I'd say that's exactly right. So once again, thank you to our founders. Thank you everyone for being with us tonight, physically and virtually. Thank you for your continued support and the behind the scenes and in front of the cameras. Behind the scenes, that's for usual at Molnár. And your generosity, your boundless generosity to make it all happen. Let's raise a glass together one more time. Here's to the next 30 years. Egészségetekre. Go behind you.
Thank you, Andrea. And now, on to more music. Our guest tonight, a beneficiary of the largesse of the coalition, was born in 1983 in Gyergyó Remete in Romania. Trained in Csíkszereda and Nagyvárad, he sang for the Kolozsvár Hungarian Opera, then at the Hungarian State Opera House in Budapest. His many principal roles include Don Giovanni, Figaro, as well as starring in Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical Cats. Since 2009, he has been a member of the Bayerische Staatsoper and later sang at the Vienna Staatsoper, New York's Metropolitan Opera, and Opernhaus Zürich. Please enjoy Mr. Levente Molnár.
Isten éltesse az Amerikai Magyar Koalíciót. 30 év telt el. Remek eredmények, óriási áldozatok is nagyszerű tettek. Miért? Nemzetünkért. Az a nemzet, mely a szűzanya oltalmára van bízva, el nem veszhet. Az a nemzet, mely összekapaszkodik, bár óceán válasz el egymástól, tudjuk jól, népek harcának zajló tengerén nem vészel. A szűzanya biztos nem herdálja el nemzetünk, s ha mi magyarok egymásért válvetve kiállunk, sikerülni fog megmaradni, míg a föld tart. Segítsünk egymáson, és a Jóisten is megsegít. A koalíció ebben igen nagy mester. 30 év. Ha fiúnak született volna, férfi lenne, tetrekész, erős férfi. Ha nőnek született volna, igazi asszony lenne, gyermeket adva, gyermekért harcolva. 30 év. És hány gyerek, és hány nemes tett, hány igaz magyar férfi és igaz magyar nő, igaz magyar szimpatizáns, barát, mennyi csodálatos eredmény. Kedves koalíció, büszkeséggel tölt el kitartó és eredményes munkátok, amit a magyar kisebbségi jogok képviseletéért és a fiatalok támogatásáért tesztek, immáron 1991 óta. Kívánom, hogy sokáig éljetek, gyarapodjatok, erősödjetek. Hálásan köszönöm, hogy támogatásotokkal hidat képeztek a tehetségeseknek és a szorgalmasaknak, hogy a legjobb helyen tanulhassanak, és nemzetünk értékeit képviselhessék. A koalíció nem csak a NATO-hoz való csatlakozásban és a vízummentesség kialakításában segített, hanem rengeteg magyar tehetségnek adott rendkívüli lehetőségeket a fejlődésre. Értékes ösztöndíjakat nyújt Magyarország és külhoni magyar diákok számára. Együttműködnek a Magyar Emberi Jogok Alapítványával és dokumentumfilmet is készítettek. A koalíció fontos szerepet tölt be a kolozsvári református kollégium visszaszerzésében 2000-ben. A kisebbségi jogokért fáradhatatlanul harcolnak nap mint nap. Közeli emberi kapcsolatokat alakítottak ki az itthoniakkal, ahol nem csak anyagi támogatást nyújtottak, hanem örök barátságokat, keresztszülőségeket és egyéb nemes emberi kötelékeket hoztak létre. A magyar kultúrát folyamatosan támogatják és éltetik. Hölgyeim és uraim, a ti szervezetetek a nemzetünk egyik fontos szövetségese. Gratulálok és köszönöm. Én is személyesen hálás vagyok a Lauer családnak, hogy támogatták tehetséggondozó munkásságom. Büszke vagyok diákjaim eredményeire. Jóleső érzés magyarnak lenni. Számos, nagyon kellemes emlékem kötődik a külhoni magyarok vendégszeretetéhez. New York-i bánkban csodálatos magyar nézőközönség. Csibi Lóránt őszinte, szívhez szóló interjúja. A Metropolitan Opera magyar zászló lengetés a viharos tapsviharban. Jankovics Tamás végigvitt Kodály Zoltán San Franciscói útján. Lényegében ugyanaz a család fogadott, mint egykoron Kodály Zoltánt. A San Franciscói operai előadásámon Voisin Éva szervezésében magyarok is örülhettek a sikeremnek. Elképesztően erős magyarokat látok Amerikában. Az igazság az, hogy nagyon hiányoztok itthonról. Ha mi itthoni magyarok felétek járunk, köztetek otthonra találunk. De mi is itt leszünk nektek, hogy legyen hová hazagyertek. Kívánok erőt, egészséget, búcsúzól fogadjátok szeretettel a magyar áldást és imát, amit családommal Trianon 100-ra készítettünk. töltse békében napjait, egyezve rássa fiait. Tatár, török, s más ellenség minket meg ne rendíthessék, minket meg ne rendíthessék. Isten áldjon meg a magyart, tartson neve, míg a föld tart. Isten áldjon meg bennünket, minden igaz magyar embert, minden igaz magyar embert.
Isten áldja meg a magyart, tartson neve, míg a föld tart. Isten áldjon meg bennünket, minden igaz magyar embert, minden igaz magyar embert.
Our Hungarian children are truly gems, as is Mr. Levente Molnár.
Yeah.
And now, as we near the end of our program tonight, our grand finale will be a collage of the past 30 years. Enjoy this short look back at our accomplishments. Live.
Yes, I saw
Live. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to thank Noémi Bánhidi in Budapest, Ildikó Nagy in New York, Zsolt Szekeres in Budapest, and Zsolt Molnár here in Cleveland for their technical support tonight. But most of all, the Coalition thanks you, our dear friends, for taking part in tonight's virtual gala and for your unending support all year long. We hope to see you in December, vaccinated and in person, in Washington for our annual Mikuláš dinner. This concludes tonight's program, but feel free to stay for our virtual cocktail hour, which will have multiple random breakout rooms. Have a very pleasant evening.
Thank you.